Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pretend Pros. And we are actually together.
This is the first time we've done this.
Well,
We did a practice
we
run. That doesn't
practiced
count.
one
Yeah.
that it wasn't good, so you never saw it. We are up here in the mountains, decided to try to escape the Charlotte heat, but it's just as hot as here.
It's not as hot, but
Oh,
it's hot.
It's hot.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we tried to get the mountains in the background so you could have a view of that, but it didn't quite work out with the lighting. So, here we are. But you get us today.
Yes, together.
And I don't know if I said this, but I'm your host, Jenny Hoffman.
And the rookie.
And the rookie.
Beth Painter, IU fan, in celebration of football being back and IU football being on soon, wearing my IU's t-shirt. Unfortunately, it's hot and I chose long sleeves. Bad decision making. So. But I was thinking, one of the reasons we haven't done an episode, one, just the two of us, we haven't done any where we're in person, but also just two of us because we've had a ton of really cool guests. Because we've talked about this was your idea. I don't know what you thought we were going to do on this podcast, if you thought we'd have all these guests. I didn't, because I honestly thought we would do that one test recording and you would decide this was a disaster and you'd be like, yeah, I think I'm really busy. I got a lot going on. I don't think I can do this anymore. And that's not what happened. So We've had a lot of cool guests.
We have. We really have. Do you want to list out some of them?
I do. So I counted. We've had 11 guests and I think this is our 21st episode.
It's actually going to be our 23rd.
Okay. So almost half have had guests, which is really cool. So we've had 11 different sports along with the 11 different guests. So we have yet to double back, which I think is kind of cool too. At some point, that's probably going to not be realistic anymore. There's only so many sports. But so we start off with Molly. Molly was our very first guest representing soccer. And then we had Jenny's friend, David, who had both played and coached hockey. So learned a lot about hockey and then watched more hockey than I've ever watched in my life. We had your friend, Emily, who was a long distance runner.
Right.
We learned that people actually run
for fun.
50 miles. I mean, insanity.
100 miles.
She did the
100, yeah.
Yes, because it was the 50 she was doing that weekend. Yeah, crazy. And then we had my friend and fellow IU alum, Eric, who talked about cycling. And then we had Gracie, who was a volleyball player, and her season actually gets started pretty soon. She has her first exhibition game this coming week, and I am still hoping maybe to see her play live, so we'll see if that pans out. Then we had Nathan, who is a diver. And to give a little update on Nathan, I guess 2 weekends ago, he participated in the USA Diving National Championships. So that, I think, is similar to what we talked a little bit about with Rachel, where if this was an Olympic year, I think it's one of the ways you qualify for the Olympics. It's not, obviously. So this was just the highest level diving competition in the country. These, though, were all college-age kids, whereas what Rachel did included professional, former Olympics. But I think the really neat thing with Nathan was in the prelims, he came in at 12. So only 12 people qualified. He was 12. So I think his mom told me he'd had kind of a little bit of a rough day the day before. And then I actually watched the diving competition, first diving competition I've ever watched.
Outside of the Olympics, probably.
I mean, I've watched a little, but not a ton of diving. Okay. So this was I learned a lot. Fortunately, the commentator was pretty good about explaining things, so I knew what was going on. He did 6 dives. All the 12 divers did 6 dives each. They kind of go in rotation, so 12 and then 12. And so he moved up from 12th to 7th, and the prelim scores counted. So he kind of started off at a little bit of a deficit. So it's not like you just wipe the slate clean and then start all over again. His first day had to count along with his second day. So really impressive that he moved up from 12th to 7th. And I learned that you can actually also have a redo. So a phone went off in the middle of one of his dives. He talked to the judges about it. It was fascinating to watch the whole process of them scurrying around trying to validate, had something made a noise in the arena. So credit to him, because I cannot imagine how stressful that is. You sort of stop the whole process for you to ask for this redive. And then he did a phenomenal job on the second dive and was a really good score. So even the commentator was talking about the mental capacity for that is pretty impressive. So back to our list, we had Amber, who played basketball for Miami of Ohio. Their schedule has not been released yet, but pretty soon they'll get started. And then your friend Tyree, who we not only learned about Olympic weightlifting, but also learned that he hates IU, which is very, very sad.
That was great content.
I think that's your favorite thing that's happened.
It really was.
Yeah.
When he told me that, I was so excited just to have him surprise you with that. So
I've rewatched that. My reaction is pretty funny because it was so genuine. There's so few people who hate us. The fact that you found one that had nothing to do with anything IU is hilarious. So then we had Rachel, obviously. She is the 100-meter hurdler that we had on. And we talked about this a little in the episode, but right after we taped with her, she actually also performed at the USA track and field event in the 100-meter hurdles with 19 other women, which included names that I actually knew. So that event was broadcast on NBC. Jenny and I got to watch it and like cheer on. We were texting. There were like former Olympic athletes in that. There were professional athletes. There were some other college ones. But I mean, it's impressive as heck for somebody who's going to be a senior in college to have been on that stage. So that was super awesome to watch. And then we had Randy, who was the college football referee. And then Peyton Dilger was our last guest, who was a rower and taught us about crabs. Not the unfortunate type. I guess those are unfortunate, but a different version of unfortunate. So, and not the little cute ones that are in the ocean.
Yeah.
So we've had some really cool guests.
And I just have to point out, Beth left out one guest, Doug Morris. Sorry, Doug. You did not make the cut because apparently you didn't actually play a sport.
Yes. All Doug does is antagonize us, so he did not make my list.
But, he sent me some more content
He
today,
does provide
and
content.
I did do my research. So, Doug, here in a little bit, you will be very happy to know that one of your stories made it. And I actually did research on the topic. So I feel very good about...
You feel like a real podcaster?
Yeah, I feel like I actually took notes. So there you go, Doug.
That actually was a fun episode because it's the only one that we didn't really have a guest. We're asking questions, but we had a third person sort of tagging along. But again, Doug did get invited because he was annoying us with his content suggestions. And so it was a little bit of put your money where your mouth is. So I don't know. I have been very pleasantly surprised at this whole podcasting experience. I don't know how long we're going to keep doing this, but
I'm very happy that we have been consistent.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when we first got started how I would be able to maintain it.
Because shockingly, we have real lives and real day jobs, and this is not paying any bills. So,
Your friend did ask if we have started getting money out of this venture, and no.
Please subscribe and help us make $5. We're really just trying to pay off the software Jenny had to buy at this point. I was hoping we could fund some trips to watch sports, but that's definitely not happening yet. Too funny.
All right.
On to real sports topics.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. So football is back. I'm super excited. This is literally the most excited I've been about football season. Both, obviously.
Because of this podcast and now we get to talk about it?
Yes. No, I'm excited about football, but I'm happy we have a podcast because then I can talk about it. I think I agreed to this whole thing so I could talk about Indiana football. Let's just be honest. But I think between all of the 500 football podcasts that I listen to, which are mostly former athletes and a few current athletes, and then obviously having Indiana win a national championship and be good at football is a still very startling, turn of events in my world. But I feel like I understand football better, and it's so much more fun to watch a sport when you actually understand what the heck is happening.
Yeah.
So when we watch some of these sports at the beginning, after we've had guests on, I'm like, it's just hard to get into it because you're I don't understand what's happening on the field or the court or whatever it is. But I feel certainly not an expert at football, but I definitely understand more. So I'm super excited. So we've had now, I think, the Hall of Fame game, obviously. And then we watched a little bit of preseason. We were up here living our best lives, but we did get to watch a little bit of preseason, which obviously doesn't mean much, but still fun to watch.
Yeah, It's hard for me to get into it at this time of year, to be honest. The Hall of Fame game's cool because it goes back to where I grew up. And this year, I was personally invested because I actually love one of the players, Kuechly, that was inducted. So I was very happy to see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I did watch some of those events and the speech because of his ties to Charlotte. And I think had he been healthy enough to continue, he would still be playing to this day.
Which is amazing that he's making the Hall of Fame despite, I mean, so you think if he had been able to play longer, oh my gosh, he had a Hall of Fame career and it got cut short. So that's amazing. But I was actually going to quiz you and see if you knew any of the Hall of Fame people, but then you posted that you've actually met Luke Kuechly.
Yes.
So that,
several years ago, we got to meet him at a fundraiser. So, we were very fortunate. So that was cool. And Peanut Tillman was actually running the fundraiser. So that was our connection. Cool. But super cool.
So I think in the end, you knew 3 of the 5, which is pretty good. One of them played a long time ago. I actually admittedly did not know Roger Craig either. think he played for the Niners as a running back or receiver. I can't remember, but it was definitely before probably you or I were invested.
Okay.
But then you did not know Adam Vinatieri.
No, I did not.
And he was a kicker, so to be fair, but he's probably the most famous kicker other than Pat McAfee.
Well, I did not realize that he was the third kicker to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I did learn that stat. So not many kickers get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so he played for the Patriots and then the Colts, or the other way around, I think the Colts and then the Patriots, and has won many, many Super Bowls. But there's a funny story that Pat McAfee told because he was getting inducted. So when he first got drafted, he was the holder for Adam Vinatieri to kick the ball. Kickers and that team usually doesn't get drafted. They just get signed afterwards. So I think the owner or the coach, I forget, one of them called Pat and said like, hey, did you ever hold the ball in college? Right. Because he kicked and he punted. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. He did not. He just lied. Because like a lot of the guys, you hear them say like, just say yes and figure it out later. Okay. So he gets there and Adam Vinatieri is like, so how many times did you hold? What's your history? And he's like, yeah, I got to be honest, sir. I never held the football. And apparently, I mean, Adam was not happy because that's a big part of the kicking activity. So he sent him off to some camp to learn how to hold because he was like, my Hall of Fame career is not being ruined. At that point, nobody knew who Pat McAfee was. If you're the holder, like no one cares about you.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anyone know who other holders are besides Pat McAfee?
Often it's a backup kicker, I think. One, because they know what that's all involved. So I think he probably was the backup kicker. But when Adam Vinatieri is the starting kicker, you're not seeing the field unless he gets hurt, right? Yeah. And then, of course, Pat went on to have a pretty good career himself as kicker and a punter. But I thought that was funny. So that is preseason. I made Jenny watch the Raiders game. Mendoza looked good. I was very happy about that.
And I think you want to go to a game, which I'm still not convinced.
Talking her into it. Yep. Yeah. I was like, did I tell you that we're going to Vegas? And she's like, what? When? We're going to try and catch a women's hockey game too. So, because we learned a little about hockey, so we might as well support the women. And they're going to have a team this year. So in the spirit of Indiana football, which starts very soon, I cannot wait. Labor Day weekend is their first game. Lots of people probably saw the Purdue has a new athletic director. So this has definitely been well covered in the media. So I'm not going to be, if you follow sports at all.
Breaking stories?
No, but as an IU fan, I just can't let it go. I actually felt bad for the guy, which says a lot. So in his introductory press conference, he said, and I'm quoting, "We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana." So just to clarify the situation, Indiana has 24 national championships in total. Purdue has 3. And the last time they won one was like in 2010, and it was in, I want to say golf. Something. We have played them. Now, admittedly, before the last 2 years when Indiana football got good, they had beaten us quite a bit in football. But the last 2 years, which is certainly what's on everyone's mind, we beat them 66-0 2 years ago. And then it got better this last fall, and we beat them 56-3. So I appreciate him trying to get his athletes excited and represent the school, and that's your job. And I think he was trying to do a little of what Signetti did, but it just needed a different wording. So Pat McAfee had him on because Pat is from Indiana and, is broadcast out of Indiana. So had him on and he changed it to what I should have said is, we're going to build programs here that are better at winning championships than I am at one-liners. So also give him credit for making fun of himself and recognizing that
self-deprecating humor.
Yeah, that'll do him well as Purdue because hopefully their football team is better, but it's got a ways to go. So, which honestly, so did we 2 years ago. So at this stage, anybody can.
You never know.
So do you want to talk about the other funny story we talked about?
You actually brought this story to my attention, and then I just so happened to be reading. I think the article I had read said he had been out on the field at least an hour.
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah,
and he felt something wasn't right. He couldn't quite place it, so he went back to the sidelines, and he's like, "I think my helmet's broken," thinking it was like a part of the helmet. And so he takes it off, and they see this head of a snake, and not just any snake.
Yeah.
This was a venomous cottonmouth, which is also referred to as a water moccasin. And his little head was just poking out. And you had explained to me that it wasn't sitting on top of his head. Obviously, he would have seen that.
Or been bitten many times. Yeah.
So it was the layer in between the hard shell of the helmet and the padding that's kind of throughout.
Well, keeps you safe, right?
Yeah. And the snake had weaseled his way up, or slithered. I guess slithered is a better word. Slithered his way up and gotten inside, and there he was just hanging out. And so they had to call like animal control because it was venomous, and obviously no one was going to touch it. And they put the helmet in a bucket full of water.
I didn't see
I had
that.
watched this video. They put it in a container of water and held it down with like what looked like this concrete paver, and they had to wait for it. And the video was like a minute long, so check it out. It was like a minute long, and finally this snake kind of like slithers out. You see his little tongue going out and his head just like poking out of the water. And so when it finally pokes out of the water, they grab it with their pincher thing and like pinch it and like take it out. And they think this snake had recently had a full meal and he was like super fat. I guess he was like super fat for their standards, and he had weaseled his way up to like a dark space to digest his food.
So I'm glad the helmet could help. Yeah, that was more of the story. I just saw the helmet was like snake. Keep scrolling because like terrifying. I mean, even if it wasn't venomous, I'm scared of black snake. But the thing I read was that the kid, like after they figured out what was wrong with the helmet, that it wasn't broken, that they just gave him another helmet and he just went back to practice. You would have had to hospitalize me if there's a snake in my helmet. Oh my God.
And people at home, I think that is true because there was just a bee flying around and she was about to have a conniption. So
I definitely dislike snakes more than I like bees. But we've run into snakes hiking before, I think, together.
Have we? I have once run over a snake with a bicycle tire. And my feet kind of like went up while the rest of the bike was going.
Yeah, I am. It's the only thing that I feel like I have super illogical behavior around. Because generally I'm fairly logical. I have an accounting degree, right? Like kind of logic by nature. But my behavior is the opposite of what you should do. So I was up here hiking a couple weeks ago with a friend and she spotted one. And it was far enough away from us that we weren't in danger. But the logical behavior was like, keep going away from the snake. I completely froze. And she was like, why are you not moving? Move. So fortunately he went that way, we went that way, and all was good. Yeah, I would not have been good with the snake in the helmet. Jeez. Yeah. I think that is all of our football stories. The first real NFL game that counts is on September 9th. It's the Patriots Seahawks. It's weirdly a Wednesday game. The NFL is just like taking over.
Are we having Wednesdays now?
Not regularly, but there are a couple. And so that one
I like football, but that's all. That's like
it's gonna be like
day.
all the days, because then the Thursday night game, which is a regular game, is the Australia game, which will be interesting. So that's the 49ers and the Rams who have to fly all the way to Australia. I think Melbourne, they're playing a game, which is
okay.
So they gave them the Thursday because then, they can get back. They have all the way until like next Sunday to play it.
I didn't realize they were going to Australia, but I think that coincides right around the same time as the Australian rules football final. I think it's sometime in September. So for my friends in Australia, you'll have to let me know if you go to this 49ers and Rams game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the first time they've ever played.
It'll be in your backyard. So now I gotta contact some people.
There you go. And then the first college football games are on August 29th. So they play the weekend before Labor Day. IU does not play yet. For some reason, they've never done that. Like they call it week 0, I think. So our first game is against North Texas on September 5th. And that same weekend, I think the same day, Ohio State plays Ball State. So I'm sure that'll be a barn burner. Go Ball State. All right, I think that's enough football. I'm super excited, man. So you want to talk a little NBA?
Sure, yeah. So this story broke weeks ago, but because we've had all our lovely guests on, we have not had a chance to actually sit down and talk about some of the other sports news.
Have you recovered from the story yet? I mean, it's been a couple weeks. That might have been good. You might have cried on the podcast if we had done it when you...
So LeBron left for Philly. I thought he was going to sign with the Cavs because that would only be right. I don't know. It just I understand there's a business to it. I get that. It definitely wasn't as heartbreaking as when he left for South Beach and all that drama. So I think as Cleveland fans, we are at least over that because he came back and brought us a championship.
That helps.
that did help. But Philly, they have talent and they signed Jaylen Brown just recently, right before he signed on. So I get it. But I would have liked to see him play with Donovan Mitchell. I think that would have been cool.
And he's staying in Cleveland
He
at
is
this point?
staying. Okay. Yeah, he is staying. James Harden, not really a fan. So maybe LeBron isn't either. Maybe he saw the writing was on the wall and he wasn't going to be able to perform at the level needed to win playoffs. So sad about it, but
hopefully he'll be able to keep paying his bills. Might be hard.
But hopefully maybe he'll have one more year after that in him and he'll sign with Cleveland. Because I feel like he has to end in Cleveland.
He could re-sign sometimes they do like those one-day deals. So you would think he would do that. I always think it's interesting when stuff like this happens, like him and Myles Garrett. And if like Aaron Donald comes back to play for the Rams, which that's still in flux at this point, he's been practicing. I think he's trying to figure out, can he? Like the amount of pressure that puts on those teams, because like you have now spent all this money and assembled the Marvel League of Justice athletes, right, to win a championship. So if they don't do this in the next 2 years, it's kind of a little bit of a kind of ending to LeBron's career. And I mean, Myles Garrett has a lot more football to play, so that one's a little bit different. Yeah. But Matthew Stafford, he's got to be getting like last year. I mean, if they win a Super Bowl, he's definitely done. Yeah. But it's just like it puts all this pressure. Like you've done all these things, and then it's a failure. It's just like, what was all that for? So, well, interesting to watch.
If he fails in this, I just read today that LeBron just started a golf YouTube channel. Oh. So I have to think that is his next step in his career.
It's interesting. He wouldn't commentate on basketball, or maybe he would do both. He'll have time.
He posted, I guess it was like a 96-minute video of when a bunch of Cavs from the 2016 championship team went out to Scotland, I think it was, and played golf for like a week or something like that. He posted that to this new YouTube channel. Okay. So LeBron is now venturing into golf.
Yeah. Okay. And then was that the other story you had? Those are the two? Okay. Yeah. And then you want to talk about MLB, which I'm just going to sit here and listen. So I got nothing. So it's the only sport I do not watch at all.
So I usually watch it during playoff time. Unfortunately, I wish I would have recorded my conversation with my grandmother the other day because she was like going off on the Guardians. And I was asking her to give me an update because I haven't been following, but normally around playoff time I do. And she was ragging on him.
How old is your grandmother?
Happy. She is 90.
That's hilarious.
Unfortunately, she does not get the games televised. I don't know if it's like a blackout in her area or something, or she just doesn't want to pay for the cable, which that's probably more accurate.
I was like, it seems like there's a solution to this problem that's not that expensive, but okay.
So she listens to it on the radio, and I think she listens to most games. And she was telling me the play-by-play, and she was telling me about how this guy hit a double and then he got out. I don't know. She would be great. So I was half tempted to record her talking about this.
And then we could just insert that here. We could just skip over MLB.
And she would be our MLB special agent out in the field.
Hilarious.
Maybe one day. But anyways, this story actually came from producer Doug. Okay. He is a huge Cardinals fan, and he said we have to talk about this story. So
it is legit, because you told me it is a legitimately good story. So Doug gets a credit here.
Yeah. So I did some research. So Doug would be very happy because he tends to say, "Why are you recording? You don't know what you're talking about." And I say, well, that is the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. Pretend pros, Doug. Yes. Pretend.
Yes. So I have to pull up this story. So he made history. A guy named Joseph Baez with the St. Louis Cardinals.
Joshua, I believe.
Oh, who did I say?
Pretend pros, Joseph. I don't know who Joseph Baez is. Maybe he plays for a different team, but I believe it was, I don't even know these people. I believe it was
You've already contributed to the MLB content. Joshua.
And displayed the rookie and non-rookie aspects of our dynamic.
Yes, so Joshua Baez. Maybe I should read the notes there. Yeah, so he made his debut with the St. Louis Cardinals August 15th, so just yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And he played the arch rivals, the Cubs, at Chicago. And for those of you that don't know much about baseball, the rivalry between the Cardinals and the Cubs is a very big one, but not that the Cubs have been great. The Cardinals have definitely been good throughout the years, but it's still a very heated rivalry. Anyway, he hit 3 home runs at his first 3 at-bats.
That's insane. So his rookie debut.
Debut.
That's crazy.
And 3 home runs off the same pitcher. I can't believe this pitcher was still pitching.
Because you let a rookie get a few. I'm surprised they're not pulling you. And certainly the second time.
He hit the first one. I got to look up my notes here, and this is where I should have wrote this down. But he hit the first one, I think, to center field, like over 400 and something yards. Wow. And there's only 2 people that have hit it further. And then the next at bat, he hit it either right field or left field. And then the third at bat, he hit to the other side.
That's brilliant because I don't know a ton about baseball, but I think hitters tend to hit like sort of the same areas, right? Isn't that part of
Sure.
like you? Yeah. Like, if you're right-handed hitter, you tend to, yeah. So I watched no baseball.
And then his fourth at bat, he did strike out, I think.
That seems acceptable under the circumstances.
That was part of the story, actually. I think he struck out, and the Cubs fans gave him a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's pretty cool then. Yeah.
So
now, see, if I had watched that, this is my only thing about baseball, because I've seen a few clips where like things like that happen. They always show the parents who are always in the stands, and then I'm crying because like it's so sweet. Like took these kids. I mean, these kids are typically younger than some other athletes that make it professionally because baseball is so young, but like these guys work so hard and have that moment and they want to be your parents watching. Super cool.
Yeah, he had 30 people there, so he had a huge crowd. And I was trying to like read through some of his early life and just his professional career, and he was actually signed as the 54th overall selection to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2021.
Okay, so he's been in the minors for quite a while.
Yeah, and he's like bounced around, and I guess like there's some like fifth draft rule or something like that.
Okay.
And it's like after 5 years, I think a team has to like commit to signing them like full season on the team or risk losing them to another team that would start them on a major league team. So it's just a way for teams not to stockpile players and just take all these players to the minor leagues and just kind of hoard them.
Yeah.
So if another team wants to actually elevate this person to their major league team, they have the opportunity to take them if they're not signed to the major league team. Yeah. So learn that.
Good for Joshua. And Joseph, wherever you are, we hope you're doing well as well. Hilarious.
And I made sure to like say his name and write it down.
We wrote it on our little notes.
Yeah.
So funny.
All right.
So Doug might give you like a B+ maybe on that story.
Okay.
Do you have any other MLB? Because I have nothing to contribute.
That was the draft story. No, I think that is it. Those are my stories.
So I think the last topic we were going to talk about, because it's the only one that's like actively, well, I guess there's other sports being active with baseball. You're nonsense. But so the WNBA is certainly getting towards the end of the season. They probably got about a month-ish left. So at this point, the Lynx are in first place. We watched the game. Well, some of us dozed. Some of us watched the game. The Minnesota Lynx played the Las Vegas Aces. They had played them last weekend too, but in Minnesota. This time they were in Vegas. Both games were phenomenal. If I was betting, I would say these are the two final games. Like they're just such complete teams. They play very good offense. They play good defense, which any good coach will tell you defense wins championships, right? And so currently the Lynx is in first place. And they are just so fun.
I gotta do this.
Are we ignoring my flies? When you tape outside, this is what happens. Sorry. So the Lynx are in first place, and then this has been moving around a little bit, so these might have changed. But Golden State is in second. The Vegas is in third. The Dream, Fever, so Atlanta, Indiana Fever, New York Liberty, Dallas Wings, and then the Washington Mystics. And then there's a huge drop-off from the 8th team to the 9th team, and the top 8 make the playoffs. So there's enough games left. Somebody could make a run, but it's just seeming less and less likely. And at some point, I gotta think these teams at the bottom are sort of trying to make a run for position for draft capital, right? Because the worse you are, the better the odds are you get the higher draft picks. But there are definitely some interesting stories. So both the Lynx and the Aces have both clinched a playoff spot at this point in time with like a month left. So that's pretty impressive. But in second place is the Golden State Valkyries. And I think that story's cool because this is only their second year as a franchise. So last year, their team was just based off of, basically people who other teams didn't protect to keep. This year, of course, because there was an expansion draft and with the new CBA, there was a lot more like moving around. But that's really cool that they had done so well in 2 years. I just think that'd be pretty unusual. I should have Googled stats for like expansion teams across all sports, but they have one of my favorite players. She's not a starter, but Caitlin Chen is on that team. And I actually got to see her play. I saw the Indiana women play a couple of years ago down in Florida, like a multi-team tournament. And she was still on the Princeton team at that point, but she stood out even as like somebody who I didn't know anything about any of the Princeton players. She was their point guard, and she was so good that like I remembered her. She then moved over to play for UConn her last year, so won a championship with Paige, and then went to the draft with Paige, like to support Paige, and got drafted, which was really cool. Okay. Because the first time I watched a UConn game, the commentator's like, oh, Caitlin Chen's checking in. I was like, wait a minute. I know her. Like, I don't watch UConn usually. And so I had seen her play a bit as Princeton. So she's now playing for the Valkyries. And just, I don't know, there's something about her that's just super fun to cheer for.
Okay.
They got Gabby Williams, who I love, who played for the French Olympic team that almost beat the U.S. women last Olympics. And then Veronica Burton, who's super fun to watch. So, I'm definitely rooting for the Lynx. I wanted Lynx to win last year. They've been my favorite team for a while, but I'm rooting for them. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I suspect it'll be these 8, and now they're just trying to get home court advantage.
So out of all the teams you listed, are the Lynx the one team that has been around for all 30 years?
They have the Liberty have as well.
Okay. Because I was reading through the names, and
I'm trying to think some of the others. The FIBA have been around for a while, but I don't think they were there for the beginning. Because Stephanie White, is their coach, I think played for them at one point.
Okay.
And Vegas used to play in San Antonio. So I don't know if they were an original team, but they've moved. So I think those might be the only 2.
I have to blow the whistle on Beth on this one. The WNBA was founded in 1996 and had 8 teams in its original starting lineup. Those teams were the Charlotte Sting, Cleveland Rockers, Houston Comets, Los Angeles Sparks, New York Liberty, Phoenix Mercury, Sacramento Monarchs, and the Utah Stars, which later became the Las Vegas Aces. So we were wrong, and the Minnesota Lynx were actually not one of the founding teams.
And the Washington Mystics, they got a lot of draft capital this year. And so I think they are the youngest team in the league at this point. So the fact that, again, they're probably going to make the playoffs. I mean, they're not going to do well, let's be honest, right? They're still really young.
Yeah.
That's great experience, right? Because getting to play a playoff game is just a different atmosphere. So, and then we were talking a little bit about the FIBA Women's World Cup.
It's FIBA with a B. Because
yes,
I kept
thinking,
FIFA. Yeah, I was like, why is she talking soccer, but yet she's talking basketball?
So the B stands for basketball. Yeah.
Got it.
So much like the World Cup, right, for soccer, I think it's in every 4 years. I believe that's right. So it's like the Olympics, right? They rotate through. So group play starts, at least group play for the U.S. is on September 4th, 6th, and 7th. They'll be in Berlin for those games. And the U.S. plays China, Italy, and Czechia. And then the final for the World Cup is on September 13th. So the WNBA takes a break because lots of players play for not only the U.S., but obviously for other teams. Like I would imagine Gabby Williams is playing for France. I didn't look up any of the other countries. So the WNBA has a break from August 31st to September 16th. So the final is on the 13th, which you would think odds are the U.S. will be in the final. And so then they start playing again on the 17th, like WNBA games to finish out the season.
I'm surprised that they would break up a season that close to the end of it.
They can't start any earlier. And this year they definitely couldn't start any earlier because the CBA thing went down to the last minute.
Okay.
And they keep adding games to the season because they're adding teams, so they're adding games as well. So I think they just got stuck that there was no choice. Obviously 2 years ago with the Olympics, that was in July. So that was right in the middle of the season. But this one's obviously almost at the end.
So did this team get voted on by people in the industry?
No. So I think you're invited to try out.
Okay.
So they've been playing. So this is USA basketball. This is not necessarily the Olympic team, but obviously there's lots of carryover to be the Olympic team. And so they played some games. I'm trying to think when that was. It was earlier this year, maybe during preseason or right before preseason, but they had already qualified. I don't know what you have to do to qualify to be in the World Cup. You have to win certain things. They had already done that. So those games were more like practice for them. I mean, they beat those teams pretty handily, but they hadn't picked the team. So I believe there were people who were still playing who weren't necessarily going to be on the final roster. And much like preseason with the NFL, they were letting some of the rookies play just to see them in action. Because international women's basketball is a little different from what the WNBA plays. There's just enough nuance to it that, it will be interesting to see how they do. I've heard some of the older WNBA players, like Sue Bird has talked a lot about almost everybody who's played in the W before these last CBA also played overseas. So they play international basketball rules when they play in Europe. And so they know how to play international basketball. Well, now you have a lot of players on this team even who have never played overseas because they haven't had to, which is fantastic, right? So much more opportunity, more money in the US. Unrivaled has allowed them to stay in the US. That's 3-on-3, so it's a little different. But I think it's, they're going to have to get used to playing international rules for this competition. So Sue Bird is the executive director, I think that's her title. So she helped pick this team.
Okay.
Then the coaches are Carol Lawson, who is the Duke women's coach. And then several of the WNBA coaches are either assistants or scouting coaches. So it's also kind of nice for them because they have a lot of interaction with players who are not on their team. You never know how that works out later when somebody's looking to move around.
Yeah.
So the roster, let's see how many of these players you know in your rookie status.
Okay.
So Leah Boston.
Know her.
Yep. Paige Beckers.
Yep.
Caitlin.
Yep.
Nafisa Collier.
Watched her play last night.
Did you know who she was before?
I had heard the name, but I don't know if I could have told you her team.
Okay. She is my favorite player in the WNBA by far. Kalia Copper.
Nope.
Okay. She plays for the Mercury. Chelsea Gray.
Yes, because I've seen her in a press conference with Asia Wilson.
Okay. So, she plays for Vegas. Ryan Howard.
Nope.
She plays for Atlanta, I'm pretty sure. Kelsey Plum.
Yes.
Angel Reese.
Yes.
Brianna Stewart.
Yep.
Asia Wilson.
Yes.
And Jackie Young.
No.
So we watched her play last night. You asked me who she was. She plays for Vegas.
Still don't know her.
Yeah, so she's been in the league for a while. So of the players who've never played overseas, like Aaliyah, Paige, Caitlin, Angel, they're probably the only ones who've never had to play overseas because the rest of these guys have been in the league long enough that they have to have. And several of them have won championships overseas. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a more physical game, even than the WNBA, which is interesting.
Wow.
And there's definitely some nuances that I don't know them all, but I've just heard players talk about. It's like the same game, but not the same game. So it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. does. And that is all I had on the WNBA.
Okay.
So I think that is our first together episode in the outside. We only had one fly or gnat or whatever that was.
We had some bad stuff on my part, not getting names right.
Rookie status things.
Rookie status.
You're just keeping up your your role in this.
Joshua?
Joseph.
Oh,
His name is Joshua.
See, I got it right that time. All right.
Hilarious. All right. Well, more on the WNBA to come, and super happy football is back. So everybody have a great week.
Bye.
See ya.